Live on WFLA Now. This is Run for Fun with running enthusiast Leigh Spann.
All right, let's go. Welcome back to the Stream Center for this week's episode of Run for Fun. With this show, we set out to help more people find a love of running. Now, whether that was someone who always felt running was punishment or that it was terrible and they never tried it, or someone who was actually running a lot but running so hard that they didn't enjoy it. So it was our intention to show that running can indeed be fun. It's not always easy, but it can be fun. So I'm your host, Leigh Spann. I'm a meteorologist at WFLA in Tampa for another week and a half. And I made a lot of these mistakes when I first started running. I was running too hard. I wasn't eating enough. I was doing all these things. And then, of course, I found my coach, Coach Maria, who has been joining us for basically every episode of this is the 93rd of Run for Fun. And it's the last one, Coach.
Wow, 93 episodes. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Right. Can you believe? So we started November of 2022. So it's been almost 2 years. And it doesn't seem like that could possibly be right.
I know. It went by really, really quickly, and we had a lot of fun doing it. Sad that it's over.
I know. And believe me, there are plenty of other topics that we could do on Run for Fun. This is just,
yes, for sure.
I'm obviously leaving WFLA, so I will not have this setup or this way of broadcasting a podcast. So this particular Run for Fun podcast and digital show will go away. But it was something a learning curve. I had never done anything like this, never hosted anything like this, Coach. So I really appreciate you, giving up 93 hours of your time or more to come on because, you don't even work here. So you were doing that. And, our goal was to let people know how fun it can be.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to have this platform, to be able to help people run happier and healthier, because, that's been my life goal. So I'm always thrilled for the opportunity. And I will always be grateful to you for that, Leigh, because it's been a whole lot of fun. And we're going to miss you at WFLA, but I'm going to miss you in this platform as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you're certainly welcome. I mean, I thank you, but we hope, and, I was talking to JB, who runs our Stream Center here at WFLA, and he was mentioning to me, which something I hadn't really thought about, is that, with a lot of podcasts, especially that we do here in the news center, is that they're topical. They're whatever's going on in the news at that point. And so, or the Bucks, they have one that's for the, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and, we have things like that. And so with ours, even though, the 93rd episode will be the last of this iteration, they're basically evergreen. So anybody in the podcast world or the YouTube world, because we also put this on YouTube, that finds an episode or just Google's trying to figure out, hey, I'm interested in this topic of some sort, they could come across one of our episodes and it would be just as relevant to them. So hopefully the learning will continue and the love of running will get to continue as well.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Which was your favorite episode? Did you have one that you really, really loved?
There were a lot of them that I was excited about telling people, that the things that there were ones that are very personal to me that I wanted to tell people about. A lot of that having to do with the eating, but then there were ones that I got to learn about. So I don't know which one. So like the cold plunge. Something I had
that was fun.
Never known how to do or why you would do it. I thought that people were just kind of doing it because it showed how strong they were. But then talking to a doctor explained that there was actually physical reasons that it can help you. So there were ones that I liked because there was something that I wanted to let people know. Then there were some that I actually got to learn. I guess that's probably a very generic answer to your specific question. Do you have a particular one that you like?
I liked a lot of those that we had doctors on and stuff that I could ask questions, because I'm always very inquisitive and I love to ask questions. But in a funny way, I enjoyed the podcast for a reason I wasn't anticipating. And that was because oftentimes I am so involved in my clients, which I should be, that I don't often talk a lot about my own running. And it was very nice for me to be able to talk about some of the experiences that I've had in my own journey and the mistakes that I've made in my own journey, and share them with people that maybe didn't know things about me or didn't, know about my own illness or know about my own obstacles, it was kind of nice to be able to share some of those with other people. And so, yeah, it was kind of fun for me to look at it from that way.
Did you get any feedback from people, your clients and just friends who were listening that, oh, I didn't understand why you were doing this, or that you had these, like, even the ones where we were saying we did all the wrong things? It was like, I haven't always been perfect. I haven't always been Coach Maria. Did you get feedback from that?
Yeah. I mean, I had a lot of clients and people in general that just said, wow, coach, I didn't know that about you. I didn't, like, a lot of people I coach a little differently in that I do want it to be all about my clients. I don't want it to be about me. It's very important for me that's just how I run my business. I really want to help people with their races. So I don't talk about a lot of the accomplishments I've had or done, because that's just, in the grand scheme of things, it's not important. But it was nice for people to say, oh, wow, coach, I didn't know you struggled with certain things too. And yeah, like, we realize that we all are runners, and it doesn't matter if you're a coach or not, you still are going to have very similar struggles to the regular people. And we still have the same race anxiety that other people have, and we still have the same imposter syndrome that other people have, and we still have the same Strava, insecurities that other people have. And I think it's nice. It makes me a lot more human. I think people see me as more human when I can talk about my own mistakes and stuff. So,
well, yes, and I think that people may be more willing to open up and say to you now that maybe that they know that you've had a struggle, and say, okay, well, now I know that she's not perfect. And so she can really help me. Whereas before they might be like, well, she might not understand because she's been, she's done so well, and you have, but knowing that there's some the same insecurities, as you were saying, that exist, maybe more the clients are more willing to open up to you even more than they already were.
And also to teach people that it's not all about race results. There's a ton of podcasts out there that are all about how to improve. And I think the thing I liked about ours the most is that it's not just about improving. It's about having a happy life and having running add to your life, and having it, like, I loved the ones we talked about with the vacations and how to vacation when you're running, and how to bring running into your life so that it's not going to be another grind that we have to do. It can keep your hobby. We want you to be able to keep your hobby. And so it was just really fun to see that kind of blossom over the last 2 years.
Yes, because I mean, as I even said at the top of this show as well, it's that, like, there's two different kinds of people. There's people who think, who will write and comment like, running is never fun. Well, how could you say? It's like, well, it can be if you do it correctly. So we were trying to hook some of those people into maybe like, if you would just try it in a new way, you might find that it is fun. But more of our episodes dealt with people who either weren't fueling themselves enough to make it fun. And we've all been there. Like, that's not a judgment. That is, it just happens that you don't know that you're supposed to eat that much food. But then, that you're always going so hard that it wasn't fun. And then, and then you don't tend to stick with things, right? When it's not fun. So that was sort of our two goals, was maybe to draw in somebody new into the running world. But more importantly, the people who are already here, remember that it's fun. Remember what it was like when you weren't worried about your Strava, and you weren't worried about, if I had the best shoes, or that it's fun. And all of those things can make it more enjoyable, as long as it doesn't rule how you think about everything. Yeah.
And also that it can teach you a lot of life lessons, and it can improve the other areas of your life as well. I think it was funny. I have a quote that I have pulled up from Steve Magnus today. I don't know if you saw his post today, but it was very fitting. He said, "Sports allows us to see people at their highest highs and their lowest lows. Celebration, crying, failure, anxiety. It's real and raw. That's why bonds between teammates last. Athletics makes us vulnerable. In real life, we seldom are." And I was like, that's such a cool thing that he wrote, and just nice that it happened today, because I feel like that's what we've done on our podcast, is we've been ourselves vulnerable, and talked about some of our struggles and some of our wins. And when you're vulnerable, it allows other people to be raw and vulnerable. And then they can hit their true potential when they're not so afraid of it, right? We're not afraid of failure, and we're not afraid of doing things differently than other people. And I really hope that people got that from our podcast, and that they will continue to get it and re-listen to episodes they like. In fact, last week, I got a lot of people that said they really liked our episode last week.
About caffeine? No,
Yeah, they said it was very,
well, caffeine. Yes.
yes. And they said, one person said we were so relaxed and we were having so much fun. And that's the hard part of leaving right now, because I feel like we're just getting in our groove on podcasting, because it's a learning curve. You and I, neither one of us knew what we were doing when we were doing this.
No, we did not.
And if you go back and listen to our first episodes,
maybe don't do that.
They're a little cringy.
Yeah.
But just like anything, would we have dared to do this if we hadn't dared to do some things in our running life that have made us more confident? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my boss here was even like, we were the guinea pig. So we had this stream center. And again, it was generally like, there's breaking news, there's a fire, let's pull it up. And then JB would sit here and he would show that off or whatever. So we were the first ones that they were saying, okay, we're going to start almost like a program schedule. So, Tuesdays at 9:30, there's going to be Run for Fun. And Wednesdays at noon, there's going to be Tracking the Tropics. And Thursday at 11, there's, now there is Deanne's, I'm forgetting her name, but Deanne has one. But we were the first one 2 years ago. And so everybody was just still learning. You had too many meetings with my boss, I think.
Yeah, I remember.
Because he was also trying to see, like, okay, what does this look like? What does it feel like to have a non-topical, happening right now type of stream that happens? So, yeah, it was a learning curve for not just us, but basically my entire newsroom had never done anything quite like this. But now we do have, now we have several more that are on the way to start as well. So, it was, I do think that we have, found our groove a whole lot more than what we were doing.
Yes, for sure.
I remember Hoda and Kathy Leigh, right?
Mm-hmm.
That Kathy Leigh talked about one time that, she'd been hosting things for forever. Hoda was new to that sort of thing. She'd been on Dateline. She'd been in, she'd been a news reporter. She would, so I'm playing the role of Hoda in this particular case. And so Hoda would always have her little cards of notes. And, Kathy Leigh doesn't really follow that. And so she said one day they were out live somewhere, or they had their desk out somewhere, and the wind swept all of Hoda's cards off the table. And she's like, that was the first time that Hoda felt comfortable. And that she was like, okay, now we can move forward. And Hoda never used cards anymore. It was just, it's a new thing. So you try to make your new thing like your old thing, which, remember, I used to have, I used to do here's the rundown. Here's the things we're going to talk about. And this person's going to say this. And yes, over the time, it's like, okay, this isn't that same platform. This isn't what I've always, what I've known for 20 years. This is something different. So I appreciate you sitting through all of the cringiness.
Yeah, we both were just kind of awkward and strange in the beginning, and not sure what we should and shouldn't say. But it's been fun to learn with you, Leigh, and just another thing we can add to our list of things that we've learned about, and lucky enough that we can talk about running and how much we love it. Yes, that's a gift.
Yes, and and I was on here when I had some really bad races, and my husband would listen to that. He goes, well, you have a podcast called Run for Fun, and you just talked for 45 minutes about how terrible that race was. And it was like, well, that's part of it. It's not that that's being vulnerable. I had to let everybody know this wasn't my best. But then 6 months later, I have a great race, and so I'm going to talk about that too. So I'm not always going to say that it's easy, but it can always be fun, and it can always be a learning experience.
Absolutely. I really feel like that. I I think the negative comes with the positive too. It makes us stronger. It makes us happier. And I think that's the point. The point is that we need to stay happy running. And I hope that everybody found happiness in this podcast. I hope they did find a little pieces of magic that can help their running be better and stronger in the future.
And a healthy part of, because
Yes.
if you are going too hard, or if you're not eating enough, or you're not, hydrating enough, like your body's going to break down. It's not healthy anymore. And I think that's what, people who have tried running in the past and they like, oh, well, this hurt. And I felt tired all the time, or my legs hurt, my arms, or whatever it was. And it was like, well, maybe if we can just start people on the right way of doing it, or get them to switch their ways, which I also, 2 years ago, we were also training Nick.
Yeah.
So when we first started, we had someone who'd never run before, and we got him to a 5K, and
Yeah.
it was, so hopefully, and that idea was like, if you are just starting, don't start out doing all the wrong things like everybody does. Everybody runs too fast. Everybody does all these things wrong. But let's see if we can grab one or two people who've never done it before. Let's see if we can just get you doing it on the right way first.
Yep.
And then it can actually be fun. And I think Nick did have fun. He didn't necessarily stick with running afterwards, but I think that whole training thing for him was very...
He'll come back to it someday, I'm sure.
Yes. He tells me whenever I talk to him that he plans on it. So
Yeah.
that's okay. Eventually the plan will be put into place. You mentioned happy. Do you want to do your coach's drill?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. We'll
Okay.
do the final coach's
Final
drill.
coach's drill. All right. It is on just to stay happy.
So I know it sounds so generic and cliche, but it really is the point of the podcast, is that keep your running happy. Try to stay in a place and in a perspective that will keep you running for a long time. And if you have any questions, please find me on Instagram or find me on Facebook, ontrackrunningacademy.com, or any place that you want to find me. And I will help you get out of a rut if you get in that rut. I don't want to say that ruts are never going to happen, because they definitely are. But part of staying happy is knowing what to do when you're in those ruts, and keep moving forward, keep smiling, and keep showing up. Those are the most important things.
Keep showing up. That's the one.
Yeah.
We've used that phrase quite a lot, because if it's just showing up, if you're trying to, move to a new city like I'm going to do, just keep showing up. Go to that run club, and the first time you might not know, and people might not be welcoming. Try again. Try a different one. Keep showing up, because if that's something,
showing up.
whatever you want to do, if you let it go too quickly, obviously you're not going to accomplish it. And I brought up that we still have our Strava group, which we built, about 300 plus people. You can still post on that. We'll be, I still get the notifications on my phone. So even though the podcast won't exist, the Strava group will, right, Maria?
Yeah, it will. And you never know where Leigh and I might show up someday.
Yeah.
You never know. So
Well, you were just in Maine. Speaking of,
I was just in Maine. We had a destination race. I was actually in Massachusetts. We flew to Boston, but I did go to Maine too. But we had a beautiful destination race in the fall. Part of that being happy is keeping things fun. And if you have the chance to pick some destinations to go on some races to keep you excited about what you're doing on a new route or a new course, meeting new people, I suggest doing that. It's always helpful. And we do one a year. So yeah, have fun with your running, and try to stay happy.
and in the summer, slow down.
Slow down.
Slow down. In fact, I have one last comment that I can leave to people. It's especially in Florida in the summer. Please slow down. Please don't. It's too hard on your body already out there when it feels like 100-something degrees. So please just slow down.
And I have one tip for you for going to Ohio. Are you ready?
Yes.
When you're running in the winter,
Okay.
don't wear gloves. Wear socks over your hands. They're warmer.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Wear some wool socks, find them, or you could do the gloves and the wool socks on top. But when you have those gloves in the fingers, your fingers are still going to get cold. So
Yeah, I
wear
generally
some socks on your hands.
I generally have like the gloves, but with a little mitten
Yeah.
that heads over. But and that certainly
Yeah.
does help. But socks are a lot cheaper.
Socks are, and they keep your hands really warm. I've done many a long run in New England with socks on my hands.
Any advice for ice? Because I am a little worried.
I
I'm not
mean,
worried all about
honestly,
cold. I'm only really worried about ice.
yeah, ice is tough. You can get yak tracks for your shoes.
I bought those, but I don't.
Yeah, you can put them on your shoes. They do help. Some runners do use them. I typically use trail shoes and I slow down when there's ice involved.
And
Just slow down.
trail shoes have more grip. Is that the idea?
Yeah, they have more grippy on the bottom. But sometimes, I mean, you're not going to be able to avoid ice up there, but a lot of times they try to, if you can be, if you have a flexible enough schedule where you can go out certain times of the day, if you go out later in the day, you're typically going to have less ice than if you have to go out early morning and run. Because it's a little bit warmer.
A little bit. Yeah, maybe the sun will have come out for a little bit because, and I did buy the things, but that was also my thought process is I can, for the first time in my life, I will have a flexible schedule. So I can choose to go out and risk it, or I can just.
And I always have to, because I was a personal trainer when I lived in New England. So I would do my runs in the middle of the day when it's the warmest in the winter. So if the high was 25, it doesn't get bad until you're running sub 10. Then it starts getting kind of bad, but you warm up pretty quickly.
And I say this as a meteorologist, but I also say it as a runner, is like, there's no bad weather. There's only bad clothes.
That's exactly right.
So if you are dressing correctly,
don't try to dress cute in the winter when you're running, Leigh. Bundle up.
So I think the coldest I've ever run is maybe 10, 12, like feels like temperature. So
yeah,
I'm imagining it's going to be a little colder than that on some days.
I mean, some days, but you can always work your rest day around that. And I ran many a winter, no problem. So it's what you get used to, right? So you're just going to have to get the right clothes and get used to it. And if you need help with clothes, I'll be glad to help you pick out what to wear, because there are very specific things you need for the cold weather. So
all my cold weather gear basically would get me down to about 10. Anything other than that, I don't know that I even own anything that would be.
Yeah, I don't think it would be that many times that you would have to go below 10.
Okay,
as long as you're flexible. But yeah, you'll be okay. I have faith in you.
Thank you. I can do hard things. Right?
Yes, you can.
So anyway, for anyone who's listening and has listened, I really appreciate it. I can't believe that my time here after 17 years is coming to an end next week. Feels like I just walked into this building.
Isn't it crazy how time flies? It's crazy.
It does help. It clearly lets me know that I was having fun, because even like when you look back at Facebook memories and I'm like, yeah, that just happened. And then it'll be like 7 years ago. I go, well, I guess that wasn't that. I guess
it's crazy.
It's been a while already. So,
that's right.
So anyway, I'm very happy with my time here as far as at WFLA on this podcast. Like I really feel like I've been very blessed to have had such a wonderful opportunity for all these years. So that's great.
Me too. And thank you everybody for listening, because we couldn't have done it we got a lot of feedback from our people, and we needed that feedback. I promise you, we needed it, and it was helpful, and we appreciate the questions, and we appreciate the show suggestions, and we appreciate listening and all of that stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. And once I get my life structured again and wherever I'm going to live and work, that we might start something different. It won't be Run for Fun, but stay with us, especially on Strava, and we'll see moving forward from there.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Coach, thank you.
Thanks, Leigh.
It's been wonderful.
We're just gonna have to Irish goodbye this so I don't cry, because we're not gonna cry on here.
All right. We'll say so long.
Later, Tater. That's what I'll say.